So we're a relational network. We have a real desire to be a network, not just for senior leaders or vocational people like vicars or senior pastors. We actually want to be a network where anybody who is exploring or has a call from Jesus to go and make disciples. And we, as a network, we kind of serve three different groups of people, of brave disciples. One is actually the microchurch network. That's why you're here today. It's about microplanting. It's about microchurch networks that are kind of going into niche kind of areas around our country and seeking to share the gospel and embody Jesus's ways there. The other two are we have a city reaching stream, which are working with groups of people that are really going after reaching the city. And we do a lot of stuff, a lot of different things with them. We also have a group, which is our original group, which is made up of prevailing model churches. So Anglican, Baptist, Pentecostal, whatever stream you flow from, we work with those churches, and specifically in all three areas, we're looking to we're not only trying to multiply missionary disciples, we're also trying to this phrase craft brave communities. And the reason we chose that phrase is because crafting brave communities, first of all, we think we're in a season where we need to be brave, but also naturally we're working with so many different streams that everybody has their own name. So some of us are going to be pioneering microchurches. Some of us are going to be launching missional communities in the context of a prevailing model church. Some of us might be, if you're Anglican, you might be starting a new worshiping community. But we want this. We think all are necessary. All are really important if we're going to see movement in this country to see that God's kingdom expand. So, and then lastly, one of our priorities is about leadership health and nurturing leadership health. So, yeah, we're obviously gonna focus on the microchurch side of things today and just kind of what that looks like in this taster session. But if you have any interest in exploring further what Kairos is about, you can go to our website.
So this Brave Community Pathway that we're offering is a joint collaboration between Kairos and its microchurch network and Myriad. So I don't know if any of you have heard about Myriad. Myriad started out of CCX, the Center for Church Multiplication. It has just this year become its own charity. Myriad has a passion to see, and I don't know if you know John McGinley, but he's a Church of England vicar. He's been ordained for over 28 years. He's got a passion for lay leaders leading church. And so he has a vision to see 10,000 new worshiping communities in the UK. Come on, who's for big vision? But we're a small part of that. And John has been a longtime mentor and friend of Jeff and I. And we were excited when he began this venture where really they, strong people who are seasoned in equipping and teaching have developed kind of the format for this pathway. And so that's where the collaboration comes in. I actually work with them and help them deliver some of the hubs across the country. They have 12 hubs at the moment. And then so our Kairos group here would become a new hub for them where we are offering this 2-year pathway, hoping to see new church communities strengthened and birthed. And so we're excited to be a part of them. So a lot along the way, there's videos and there's things that they have put into forming that we'll be using. So the synergy is that Jeff and myself and our team, in our experience of planting and pioneering for the last 14 years, are bringing some of that to the community. And then Myriad is bringing that framework. And then together we can learn and grow. So just a couple of videos to get you started, people who have gone through the pathway.
Becoming a church where adults with those additional needs could be included.
I started Wave because of the situation that I was in with my daughter. I have a 31-year-old daughter with Down syndrome. And when we first started thinking about the need to provide something that filled a gap, we just know that we wanted to do something that would help and encourage other families who were living with learning disability. Anytime I went on retreat quiet times, there was just this whisper that just seemed to become louder and louder. It was like an itch that I couldn't ignore.
Wave becoming a church where adults with those additional needs could be included.
How did you feel when you started?
I felt nervous because I had been turned down by the Church of England for ordination, albeit quite a long time ago. And I just didn't want to go on another course where we were sat down listening to lots of talks and things we needed to do. So I was pleasantly surprised. It was great fun meeting in a hotel. That was fun in itself. It was nice accommodation, good food. And but from the get-go, there was a sense they were really interested in what we were doing and what we were seeing, not what the format of what they were doing was and how we could fit in with that. And that to me was a game changer.
So we have just had our first Myriad National Learning Community. It's been amazing, but don't just take my word for it. Let's hear some of the highlights from the participants.
I think there's many highlights for me because it brought clarity to what our group is all about now. And I think the fact that of being in a room where people are all in the same boat, so to speak, it was real energizing to just feed off one another. So I think it's been a great conference, and definitely look forward to what God's going to do now that we have more clarity in terms of moving forward.
Yeah, it's been an amazing weekend. I've really enjoyed it. The food has been excellent, and yeah, the teaching has been really good, and the seminars, and it's just been a great opportunity for me and my fellow leaders to discuss where we're at and where we feel like God is calling us to, and explore that together. And it's been so great to have that kind of time away to explore that.
I would use 3 words. One is validation. You know, we've been on this journey, and you almost feel God's called us to do something which is out of the ordinary. It's not traditional, and you almost think, Lord, is this really you? And we're on those birth pangs and lots of questions. So we feel validated coming here to see lots of other people who have had similar visions. The second word I'd use is clarity. I've never done anything like this before. I didn't intend to plant a church, but we just found ourselves in the middle of one, and we didn't know what to do next. And this gave us immense clarity as a team to say, well, at least we know what the next steps are. And the third big word I think the entire team would say is we're immensely encouraged. We feel so overwhelmingly encouraged. So a big thank you to Myriad. We didn't know what to expect, but this has blown our minds. We feel so encouraged.
Just a note about language. Myriad in its format is using kind of a broad understanding. You know, we don't want language to be divisive. We want to encourage anyone who feels called to plant in the small to be able to take part of these kind of hubs. And so the language of new worshiping communities, families on mission, missional communities, microchurch, or a new Christian community, all of those fit under our Kairos category of a brave community seeking to make disciples and help introduce people to Jesus. And so for Kairos, our key of what makes church a church, what makes a small group a church would be, is there a group of people who are called to live whole life worship, go on mission, make disciples, live as community, and then willing to be accountable as they go. And for a lot of us who are in that starting place, this learning community could be that first place of accountability of, hey, I'm not trying to do this as a lone ranger. I want to do this with others and learn together and make myself accountable. So I'd love to share with you just some findings from a big piece of research that Myriad did. Before they created this framework, they went on a long journey to interview and learn from people who had already been living as lay planters across the UK. So this is very specific to us here in the UK. And the research findings of what those folks said they needed or wished they had kind of rose to the top, and I've outlined them here. They talked about needing needing some training, needing a pathway to help them get going. And then they really valued as you go learning. And so because these communities were not prescriptive, it was really important. And they said they felt a need for, like, we didn't want to, we don't wish we had learned a bunch of stuff first and then went. We wish we had someone to walk with us and help us learn as we were going. The research showed that people really wanted someone who could help them think contextually about the people they were called to. They wanted some sort of a framework, so that I think that they felt they could measure, were they progressing or where they were at as they were planting. They talked about simple leadership development pathways. So I think maybe some felt overwhelmed when they thought about, how do this disciple I've made, this new disciple, how do I help them become a leader? And the leadership pathways that often we know of is they have to go to seminary or other things to become a leader. And they wanted to learn some simpler ways that we could help disciples also become leaders and disciple makers. They really talked about the need for affirmation and support of their calling. So always kind of feeling a bit like a novice or a fake, and which, I appreciated about the video before. I felt that myself as a blank page pioneer, kind of like, am I validated? Has someone affirmed? Jeff and I had the benefit of, the people that kind of sent us from the US to live as missionaries here. That was an affirmation we had. But what about folks like yourself who are just living in your community, feeling God called you? Where do you get that affirmation? That's a real thing, right? Then experienced pioneers as champions. So someone, I don't think these lay planters, if you read the report, which you can get a copy of online as a free PDF, they weren't looking for like an expert to tell them what to do, but they were looking for someone who understood what they were doing to champion them as they went. So I think that's really important. They wanted places where they could receive coaching. Coaching, again, is a bit different than even mentoring, in the sense that it's not someone with a bunch of expertise coming and telling you, what to do. It's a space where you could process, a space where you could ask questions, a space where you could dialogue to try to understand what God was saying to you. And so coaching is a real need that was revealed from this report. And then support from existing churches. And I think that's one of the big things that Jeff and I really feel called to champion right now as we work with those prevailing model churches that are a part of Kairos. Seems to be God is calling lay people to step out. And some of our existing churches who've been around the block for a long time have some real resource, affirmation, encouragement, so that will release people to be able to do this in a brave spirit. And that's exactly what they said that they needed. So Myriad was built in response to that. And they created a pathway, which if you decide to come along with us on this journey, the Brave Community Pathway, we will come away in person every 6 months for an overnight. And each of those meeting points are illustrated here by the red dots, and we'll specifically be looking at these topics at each ones. And so you may be at a different point in your journey, but you'll be able to kind of come back to that place, listen afresh, sit with that, and then learn together with the people in the room. So by the end of the 2 years, you will have a good understanding of each of these pieces that play a part in growing a new community. There's 5 key elements that we hope at every point, whether you're in a coaching call or whether you are coming away for that in-person gathering, that you'll begin to hear and see as kind of, these are key elements of becoming a disciple-making microchurch. And that would be Jesus out front. So that is, all of this begins and is fueled by prayer and listening to Jesus. He's the one that says he'll build his church. And so he's out front. We're following him as we go. Fueled by prayer there, and that is just the commitment to prayer. So that would be, if Jesus out front has a lot more to do with listening, then fueled by prayer would be about our commitment to be a people who are seeking his face, praying, in connection with him, abiding and being fueled by that prayer life, corporately as well as individually. Then our missionary identity, so believing that we are sent ones and God has sent us to the places where we live, work, and play, because there are some there that he is hoping will seek after him because you're there. That's what we read in Acts 17. Creating kingdom culture. So that will be that space of getting outside of any one building and going to the places where people are and bringing the kingdom culture with you. Jeff and I feel like this is kind of our bread and butter from the Holy Spirit that we kind of do intuitively. And we really want to be able to pass them along and equip you guys in some of that of when you go out, how do you create a kingdom culture in a neutral or even a quite secular space. And then the last one would be multiplying new disciples in community. So this commitment that we're not meant to raise families and keep our kids in the house forever. We're meant to raise people and send them out and let them go start families. And that's the picture of disciple making as Jesus gave us. What is a learning community? So Jeff and I, we were privileged to find Kairos connections. How many years into our pioneering, Jeff, did we connect with them?
Only I think it was about 3 years.
Yeah, so about 3 years into our pioneering, we found Kairos, and they offered things called learning communities, where just like this, every 6 months, those of you who know Steve and Sarah and ourselves, we were pioneering together. So we'd go away as kind of a core team, and we would be in the room where other people were learning. And it was a real, like a life source for us to have those. And so we're hoping that we can offer that to some of you guys now. A learning community is a place where we learn together through cycles of action and reflection and support each other as we go. Myriad likes to say it's a holy, spiritual, collaborative, and accountable process. So it is collaborative learning. As I've mentioned, it's not all expert-led. In fact, none of us can be experts in your corner of the world. We don't live there. It's mutual support. So if you decide to come along this, and we really hope that you will, you bring what you carry. You bring your learning to the group so that we can learn from you as well as you learning from us. We will be committed to growing together, learning through our practice. And so that means sometimes we aren't afraid to fail or share our failures and share the things that are hard, because there's learning in that. And sometimes that's the only way you get to the next step, is to have a go, oh, that didn't work. Okay, now let's pivot and go the next step. And so it is a process where we ask you to show up and be engaged. It is not a course. It is not competitive. It is not passive. And it's not a quick fix. So Jesus is the only one that has the answers about how to extend his kingdom and see the church birth in your corner. We're not saying we have those answers, but we're saying we'd love to journey with you while you seek him for those in your corner. Now, one unique about our learning community is something that I'm going to bring to the table. I have been highly impacted. Some of you know that counseling was a realm that I lived in for a while. I have my master's in counseling, and so I'm passionate about relationships and communities and the depth of those. And I have been really impacted by this book here, which is a book about brain science and what brain science is showing us about how people change, how people are transformed. And the premise of the book, you don't need to read it because right there it is. There are 4 key ingredients to creating a soil in your community where people can actually grow and transform. And quite frankly, if I look back on some of my history, I think this is one of those things where I failed at times, that I wasn't able to create these things, or we didn't have these ingredients. And so people didn't quite transform and change as much as we had hoped. And so we're hoping to bring to the table a learning around this, where we practice ourselves on the learning community, becoming a brave community, and creating these pieces of soil together so that then you can take them out to your group. And so we will be doing a few exercises every time that we gather, where we kind of we dig deep into this, becoming this kind of soil that has joy, like that celebrates joy, that lives with joy, where the people in the room want to be in the room. And then forming healthy relational attachments, that's to God and to each other. that's having a group identity, knowing who we are and feeling safe in that, and then learning how to give and receive healthy correction so that we can grow. Well done, Jeff. I was like, I don't know how long we're going to go with this. what Jeff has. All right, so I hope that just was a little taste. Check in now with yourself, with your body. If you're feeling a little more joy, just for having shared those, having someone sit with you and hold that, and those moments of joy, being in a community who shares your joy, those are huge for helping you become a person who changes and leans into the ways of Jesus like your people, the ways of Jesus like your people are doing. And so I've been in meetings many, many times, as will you, where there was just, we're there united around Christ. That's why we're there, but we're not feeling any joy. And we got to shift that. We got to shift the tracks that, like we have joy in Jesus. We have joy in the middle of the pain. And so let's be communities that can for each other.
Brilliant.
All right. Just a couple more slides, and then we will give you some moments to ask some questions. These are more little details, Jeff.
Oh yeah, real quick. We're doing this. This is what you'll see on our website. The taster is what we're doing right now, and we might have a few more of these throughout the next few months. But the pathway is the thing that we've been talking about, and that's beginning in next May for the first weekend together, and then we'll have 4 after that. But this thing in the middle, the workshop. So we're doing a thing called Brave Community Workshops. These are, in some sense, if you're really still like, I'm not sure the pathway is, can I do that? The workshop would be your next step. It's basically a Saturday morning. And we're hosting these workshops around the country. You can actually invite us to do a workshop in your area. But we have one actually coming up in Oxfordshire. We haven't set the date yet. We have one in Coventry actually in a couple weeks, in High Wycombe in about 4 weeks. And I think in the new year we'll be in the Wirral, but most of us are in the south here. So, but these workshops basically take a morning, and you can bring your teams to them. It's meant for teams. It's meant for brave disciples. And we look at kind of some of the things we've already talked about. This idea of what does it look like if we look at the ways of Jesus and how he lived in his life. And then we look at calling and what does it mean to be people that are sent out. And then we specifically look at what does it look like to actually create a kingdom culture. So we do that in just a much more succinct way, but it actually would give you a little bit more of a taster, more than this, but not quite what the pathway would be.
Very good. So you can go to our website. There's the pathway page. There's also just go to events. If you wanted to join one of those other ones, like come to the one in Coventry or something, those events will be on the website that you can join and sign up for. At this specific page, which is called Brave Communities Pathway, you'll see all the details that you'll want to know. I'm not going to go over them one for one. I'm just going to say you go take time to read those. They'll tell you who this is for. There's the specific dates of when we're going to have those in-person gatherings. It tells you what you're going to learn and then what it will cost for the whole duration. And then just to say, we don't want costs to be an hindrance to anyone. We've kept it really low. But if that is a problem, just reach out. We are going to offer this one here in Oxfordshire somewhere. And so Jeff and I are saying we can help you find accommodation with friends and people that we know, or there's also tons of hotels and spaces around. A typical in-person gathering will be a Friday evening to a Saturday till about 3 p.m. We will eat our meals together, and then we'll have session inputs, and then lots of time for you to be together with your team. And so if you are a single person hearing God call you out, we would love for you to find at least one other person that can come with you, that can be a team with you to help you process and plan as you are listening to Jesus.
Oh, great.
One last slide to show everyone, and it's just kind of what's next. What do you do next? Again, visit the website. You can reach out to Jeff and I. We're happy to have individual conversations if you need that for your journey. We'd love for you to join the Kairos WhatsApp group. The QR code's on the screen there. So if you just point your phone at it, that will just keep you abreast with all that's happening in Kairos, but also as the pathway unfolds and things are happening, Important messages will be shared there. And then just so you know, if you're like, yeah, we really want to do this, we feel like this is right for our group, you can go ahead and apply at the website. There's a place where you make your application. We will be asking for references as a part of this, and the invitation to join will be based on those references. And so there will be a bit of discerning based on the references we receive, if this is the right time and season for you to go on this journey of microplanting. And then from there, we would give you an invitation to be a part of the next cohort. So that's the what's next steps.